Right then, what's on the mystery box today? Oh, Jesus. Oh, hello there. In my first videos I looked at The Rise of Skywalker and then revisited The Last Jedi. Yep, that's right, I'm doing the reviews ass backwards. Why? I blame lockdown fever.
It's a fucking lockdown!
I came to the conclusion in those videos that The Last Jedi actually improved after watching The Rise of Skywalker because you just can't help laughing at all the crap stuff that was savaged in the final film. But how does The Force Awakens stand up now we know how badly it all turns out? I'll quickly remind you of what happens in The Force Awakens, and maybe you can tell as I go how I feel about it now. The crawl tells us the First Order is on the rise and everyone is searching for Luke Skywalker. So we open with the three-eyed raven giving a memory stick to Poe, and he gives it to BB-8, which on first viewing I decided was short for Beach Ball 8. That's the kind of eye-opening insight I hope to become famous for. So this memory stick has got the secret location of Luke Skywalker on it. And then Kylo turns up with the First Order troopers, who appear to have got their hands on old Imperial outfits. Maybe they just used the same tailor, one of those rich twats from Space Vegas. Too evil. Kylo asks the three-eyed raven where the map to Luke is, and then kills him rather than interrogate him or use that thing he can do, the Force. So that would leave a dead end then, and they can all go home. The end. But no, Poe wants the film to continue, so he decides to blow his cover and then get caught, giving Kylo another chance to find the map. What a dumbass.
Dorp.
Kylo realises that killing the guy with the info maybe wasn't a great idea, so he decides to take extra care with Poe and escorts him to the comfort of his ship to interrogate him. He could have done it here on the planet, where the thing he's looking for most likely is, but maybe he was just bursting for a piss and he can't go in public. Kylo finds out the info is in the beach ball when he sucks that out of Tinky Winky's brain, so he sends a couple of stormtroopers to comb the planet. But Finn, one of the stormtroopers, has freaked out after the attack on the Three-Eyed Raven's village. He got blood on his helmet, you see, which is a nightmare to get out, and probably means a disciplinary meeting with head of HR, Brienne of Darth. So he decides to run away, foreshadowing the Holdo manoeuvre from The Last Jedi.
It in and packing it up and sneaking away and buggering off.
On a serious note, if you're a man listening to this and you've got blood on your helmet, please seek immediate medical attention. Finn rescues Poe because he needs a pilot and they escape. Now JJ hasn't invented lightspeed skipping yet, so Poe doesn't know it either. So they get shot down, of course. The crash causes Poe to disappear into thin air, foreshadowing how Rose Tico disappears completely from the story in Rise of Skywalker. But Finn, luckily, is barely scratched.
I find that rather difficult to believe.
Meanwhile, Rey is on the same planet, and she's been surviving by scavenging bits from old shot-down spaceships. She finds the beach ball, and then she bumps into Finn. Right then, the space Nazis turn up, and they have to escape on the Millennium Falcon, which happens to be right next to them. And Rey can fly it too, even without looking at the instruction manual and never having flown before. How?
I don't know.
Then, Old Man Solo turns up with Chewbacca, and they all get chased by ridiculous monsters and bad guys, but they kill them all, and they head off to meet the Resistance. And this is just the start of the film. There's loads more. I'll go quicker. Kylo and General Hux meet a big hologram of a skeleton, who we now know amounts to the square root of fuck all. He tells Kylo to buck up his ideas, or he can't stay in the gang. And we find out here that Kylo's dad is Old Man Solo.
Another shocking twist!
Hux is a dangerous fanatic in this one, but we now know how that pans out. He's a bumbling idiot in The Last Jedi, and he's the galaxy's shittest spy in Rise of Skywalker. The good guys have stopped off at Yoda's ex-wife's place for a drink. She's done alright for herself since splitting up with Yoda. She's got her own business now, and she's obviously been hitting the sunbeds. So Mrs. Yoda gives Rey Luke's old lightsaber, and this gives Rey flashbacks. They ask Mrs. Yoda how she got the lightsaber, and she says,
A good question for another time.
We now know that's a total cop-out, and we're never going to find out. Possibly, this will form the plot of an exciting Mrs. Yoda spin-off film, where we see the dramatic events that forced her and her husband apart. Probably ending with that Lord of the Rings guy just popping up and saying, Here's Luke Skywalker's old lightsaber. How did you get it? Dark secrets known only to the Sith. I shouldn't really give them ideas. Oh yeah, the new space Nazis have a big fuck-off gun inside a planet called Starkiller Base. 'Cause you need a planet-sized gun for a Star Wars movie. And it destroys a bunch of planets. So maybe Planet Killer Base would have been a better name. Mind you, it drains stars till they go out to power up its gun. It seems to me that that's a lot more dangerous than the big fuck-off gun. Suddenly, the space Nazis turn up at Mrs. Yoda's place, and there's a big fight where Rey gets captured by Kylo. She then gets taken to the big gun planet, which is exactly where they all need to go anyway, so that's fine. At Resistance HQ, old Lady Leia says they need to blow it up, and Finn used to clean the shitters out on it, so he knows all about it, and so they all head off to do that. Finn, Old Man, and Chewie turn up to blow up the big gun planet. Rey doesn't need rescuing though, she escapes herself by bossing around a Nazi, and then they all bump into each other. Good times. Brienne of Darth turns out to be useless. She lowers the shields rather than be shot. Better to die in a massive explosion than by being shot, I suppose. Then she gets locked in a cupboard in the HR office or something, and it looks like everything is going as planned. Just then, Kylo turns up, and he says to Old Man Solo, Come here, Dad, I'm going to kill you. And Old Man says, Yeah, okay, and so he does. Chewie goes mental, because he wanted out of the series too. Meanwhile, Tinky Winky, who it turns out survived the crash, which left literally nothing but his jacket behind, leads a space attack on the big gun planet, and Rey and Finn go to fight Kylo in the snow. Kylo beats Finn easily, as you'd expect, but then Rey beats Kylo easily, as you wouldn't expect. And then they all escape when Chewie shows up in the Millennium Falcon. The big gun planet's blown up, and everyone's happy about that. It's a fun, happy, joy time for everyone. Although we now know from The Last Jedi that this barely has any effect, and days later they'll be fleeing for their lives. Very slowly fleeing for their lives. Most of these people will be dead, in fact, but the fucking space horses will be just fine, folks, so don't even worry about that. So old Lady Leia is sad about Old Man Solo dying, and she gives Rey a big hug. I suppose JJ realised later that she really should have hugged Chewie, so he thought he'd fix that by giving Chewie a medal in The Rise of Skywalker.
What are you doing?
So this film ends with Rey heading over to Craggy Island to meet Luke and give him his lightsaber back. He's all dressed up in ceremonial type robes, because he likes to take a break from looking like a depressed loser when he knows he's going to be on camera. He looks really bloody miserable here, like she's handing him a bag of dog shit or something. We know how this all ends up, so it's cringy as fuck now. The end. As I've mentioned before, I liked The Force Awakens when I first saw it. It was clearly a remake of A New Hope in many ways, but it did feel like Star Wars. And of course, it left you wanting more. Why was that? I've got one word for you.
Mystery box.
That's 2 words. Why is Rey so good with the Force?
Mystery box.
Who is Snoke, and where did he come from?
Mystery box.
How did the First Order get so big?
Mystery box.
How did they manage to get Starkiller Base built?
Mystery box.
How did Maz get Luke's lightsaber?
Mystery box.
What turned Ben Solo into Kylo Ren?
Mystery box.
Why is Luke in hiding? And why did he leave a map behind?
Mystery box.
But mysteries are pointless when they aren't addressed, or if they're resolved stupidly. Incidentally, have you ever actually watched the famous mystery box speech by JJ on that TED Talk? I suggest you give it a go, it's actually quite incredible. To sum it up for you, it's basically a writer stroke director standing in public and admitting that he can't fucking write. He basically says he doesn't like resolving mysteries, just setting them up. He doesn't think the resolution is needed, just the mystery. What? That's like you looking for someone to build you a house. I'm looking for a newly built house. I'm the man for you. I'm the man, the very man. Foundations, floors, walls, lens flare, you name it, I can do it. It sounds great. What about the roof? Well, you see, I love doing foundations and walls and stuff, and especially the flares, but I don't really bother with roofs. Why's that? I just don't think they're important. Do you live in a house with no roof? Of course I don't live in a house with no roof, I'm not a fucking idiot. So when do I start? Tell me more about this lens flare stuff. Seriously though, would you hire him? And yet JJ continues to get writing gigs. He makes a speech about not caring about writing satisfying stories, and he continues to be employed. Why do Hollywood execs do things like that?
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
I mean, he's a good director, but keep him away from the script for fuck's sake. To go off on a tangent,
Stay on target.
The whole situation with wave after wave of shitty scripts that we've seen for years now needs addressing. In his 1992 film, the brilliant The Player, director Robert Altman and writer Michael Tolkien have a pop at film studio execs. Not the fact that one of them is a murderer, sorry, spoilers, but in the part where the new up-and-coming executive tells all the veterans that they don't need writers anymore. He explains that people just want stars and the stories can just write themselves.
She'll have a happy ending on it, the script will write itself.
He reckons the execs can come up with the ideas and scripts. Who needs professional writers? Now this is a film from nearly 30 years ago and from a veteran of the film industry who's sadly no longer with us, so it's fair to say that this is probably what he saw happening. It seems to me now that studio execs and directors think they can just knock out any old shit for a script. As long as it's got the right brand, some flashy set pieces and some big marketing bucks behind it, it'll do just fine.
Please, sir, can I have another bowl of shit?
Another bowl of shit? Why on earth would you want another bowl of shit?
Well, this bowl has Star Wars written on it, sir.
Well, in that case, you shall have all the shit you can eat. There are some great writer-directors, of course, but sadly, I don't think JJ's one of them. It's now clear and well documented that there was no plan for this trilogy. If you want a relaunch/reboot, then JJ's probably a solid choice. But he clearly hoped the next guy to pick it up would be a writer who did give a shit about resolving mysteries in a satisfying way.
You see, there was a tiny flaw in the plan. What was that, sir? It was bollocks.
Oh dear. Moonface Johnson did not appreciate that. So he promptly pissed on the mystery boxes and then threw them in the river. That left JJ to come back in for The Rise of Skywalker and fish the pissy boxes out of the river and try to fix them. Well, you can't fix the pissy boxes, JJ. No one can fix the pissy boxes. The whole trilogy's a clusterfuck. And yes, looking back on The Force Awakens, it does now appear much worse in hindsight. Like a lot of JJ's work, once you know the ending is botched, all the rewatch value goes away. Will he ever learn? Who knows? He's made a shit zillion dollars, and certainly inspired other people to follow his plan, so he's probably quite happy. Character-wise, the arcs are pretty terrible, as you'd probably expect from a trilogy that wasn't planned. Rey's Mary Sue seems less annoying in this one. Knowing that she does have inherited palpy powers gives her a bit of leeway on Rewatch. It's still not very satisfying watching the main protagonist have no obstacles to overcome and just be great at everything right away. In The Last Jedi, she's suddenly attracted to Kylo Ren, the guy who kidnapped her, mind-tortured her, murdered Han Solo in cold blood, gave her pal Finn a spinectomy, and, led a genocidal army that blew up a bunch of planets. This takes the good girl falls for bad boy trope to new heights. But I suppose even Hitler got his Nat King Cole. She starts the trilogy already force powerful and kicking the bad guy's ass, and later they try to show her training and getting beaten. It's all backwards. She ends the trilogy channeling all the Jedi to be the most powerful one ever, and then stealing Luke's name. Finn probably had a decent arc all the way to the end of The Last Jedi. He's a stormtrooper turned good guy. In The Force Awakens, it seems obvious he's fallen for Rey. He just wants to hold her hand and run away with her, but decides to stay and fight. In The Last Jedi, he again starts off wanting to run away and find Rey, but he turns everything around until the point where he's willing to give his life to save the rebels. Of course, fucking Rose screws that potentially satisfying ending up. And so, in The Rise of Skywalker, he gets demoted to just running around the place shouting, "Rey, Rey." It's hinted he's got force powers, but it's way too late in the story to have any impact. Poe probably stays the same all the way through. He's a hot-headed flyboy hero, the best pilot in the galaxy. He has to put up with Purple Jane busting his chops in The Last Jedi for absolutely no reason. It's played like he's got to learn how to be a leader rather than just a fighter, but he exhibits leadership all the way through for me. Kylo's probably the star turn in all the movies. He's got the most traditional and satisfying arc. He's good, and then he's bad, and then he's good again. It's not complex stuff, but it works. He's got weaknesses and obstacles, he gets to do some more emotional stuff, and he drives the plot more. Good work, fella. The original trilogy gang don't fare too well. Han's pretty good in The Force Awakens. Although it jars a bit that he's split with Leia and gone back to his outlaw ways, it does work. His scenes with Leia are quite touching, his camaraderie with Chewie is still fun, and his death is a great moment in the film. Then he's kind of brought back for a scene in Rise of Skywalker where he's just a memory, which is pretty pointless for me and just used for shock value. Leia does okay in The Force Awakens as well, as a veteran general, sad about the way things have gone with Kylo, Han and Luke. Carrie Fisher's sad death means she doesn't get a decent ending. Leia's scene with Luke's astral projection in The Last Jedi is probably the best scene in that abortion of a movie. But to be honest, she probably should have died when she was sucked out into space. Her flying around in space is probably the most ridiculous moment in the trilogy, and that's fucking saying something. Luke was relegated to a cameo. He had no lines in The Force Awakens, was turned into Bork Skywalker in The Last Jedi, and he was crowbarred into about 2 minutes of Rise of Skywalker. He's probably the least well used of the original trio, when really you'd imagine that he should have been the best served original character. He got fucked over big time. Even before The Force Awakens was released, I reckoned that all the original characters would be killed off, but I never imagined that they wouldn't even get a single scene together. What a missed opportunity. And that pretty much sums up the whole trilogy. Maybe they'll learn from this, and the next one will be better. Stranger things have happened. I can't really think of any offhand, but they must have. So what have I learned making these videos? Apart from, get a better microphone, learn to edit better, and just do it all less badly. Well, firstly, Don't review a trilogy backwards.
What the hell were you thinking?
I apologise to both of you watching this. I won't do it again. As long as you like, share, subscribe, comment, ring the bell, rub the rhubarb, etc., etc. But most importantly, there is a vital lesson here that needs to be understood by all writers, directors, and studio execs everywhere. Even fans and reviewers can learn from this. It's more than just a lesson about movies. I think it's a lesson about life. And that lesson is